Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Northern Maple. I want to apologize for the blurriness of my previous video. Hopefully, I remedied the problem. So, this past March, the Nova Scotia government lifted a ban on uranium exploration and mining, and there has been a lot of conversation circulating about whether or not there's a nefarious agenda at play because the wildfires that have been occurring this past summer have been in areas of financial interest. The province had a wildfire near Susie's Lake, an area that is protected from residential development due to the surrounding forest, which was of interest to at least two residential developers. And now that forest has burnt down. Then the province continues to have a wildfire in an area that has potential uranium deposits, but that area also has quite a bit of private property on it. All of these coincidences have left many Nova Scotians asking themselves whether or not the government has their best interest in mind or the interest of a select few who will profit greatly from these coincidences. At this point, it all continues to be speculation, but one thing is clear. Premier Tim Houston has lost the confidence of Nova Scotians, and for a very good reason. As I mentioned, I have spent the last 2 weeks digging into the province and all the theories circulating right now. And the one I want to spend today talking about is the uranium mining situation. This past March, the Nova Scotian government repealed the Uranium Exploration and Mining Prohibition Act. And since then, Premier Houston has been on the edge with regard to this topic. So I had to create a timeline to get everything in order to try and better understand what is happening to Nova Scotia right now. So let me share that with you. On February 18th, Premier Houston tabled legislation that would repeal the existing uranium legislation that has been in place since 2009. This was very unexpected because during his campaign re-election last year, he never mentioned his intentions to repeal the uranium legislation. Then on March 13th, the Halifax Examiner published an article titled Uranium Exploration and Mining in Nova Scotia, the Radioactive Issues That Houston's Government Reactivated. It's an excellent title, and this article discusses the controversial decision by Houston's government to lift the long-standing ban on uranium exploration and mining in Nova Scotia. It had a lot of valuable information in it. The Mining Association of Nova Scotia, MANS, led by Executive Director Sean Kirby, advocates for lifting the uranium mining ban in Nova Scotia, arguing it stifles economic growth and job opportunities. MANS claims modern uranium mining techniques such as in situ leaching are safer, causing less surface disruption and producing no tailings or waste rock, and cites a poll suggesting 54% of Nova Scotians support this. They frame the ban as lazy public policy, not based on science, and highlights uranium's role in clean energy, aligning with the global elite's demands. In contrast, though, we have Dr. Stephen Emerman, a geophysicist and mining consultant with extensive worldwide expertise, opposing uranium mining in Nova Scotia, emphasizing the high rain levels of the province make it unsafe, as supported by the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on similar conditions. He warns of significant risks from in situ leaching, including groundwater contamination from unrecovered uranium, which only has a 60 to 70% recovery rate, and toxic elements like arsenic, and dismisses industry claims of nature positive mining as unsupported, also questioning nuclear energy's emission-free status due to the refining energy costs. So we have someone who will directly financially benefit from uranium mining supporting the practice and never providing any actual evidence of its safety. And then we have a geophysicist who has his reputation, a reputation that took him his entire life to build, on the line, stating the absolute opposite with an abundance of data and other legislation supporting it. One condemns the voices of dissent, the other presents research and facts. On March 25th, the Uranium Exploration and Mining Prohibition Act was repealed. Then on June 12th, Premier Houston held a press conference where he makes these the following 3 points. First, people need to look at the facts of uranium exploration and mining rather than being led by fear. Second, the province has not received any bids for uranium. Third, the province needs to grow their economy because they are the worst performing economy of North America. So I decided to look into to his third point, and Nova Scotia does have, whether or not Nova Scotia has the worst performing economy of North America on all economic metrics. The province does have the lowest GDP per capita of North America because of the population growth that outpaced the growth of the province's economy. However, it is not the singular worst performing economy in North America. And if the premier was so concerned with the province's economy, he probably should have managed the immigration rates a little bit better these past few years. And perhaps he should be more concerned about the fact that over 145,000 residents are without a family doctor and have been on the waiting list not for months, but years to have one. Just saying, Tim Houston, not cool. On June 13th, Premier Houston sends a reprimand to 4 municipal councilors that ask for a pause on uranium licensing. If you read the Halifax Examiner's article on this, you will see that again, Houston emphasizes that fear-mongering has prevented uranium exploration and mining, which in turn is preventing the province from thriving economically. On June 19th, a landowner reports that he received a phone call by MLA Melissa Sheehy Richard in which she insisted that they would get access to his property with or without his consent for uranium exploration. And it turns out there's legislation to support this. Nova Scotia's Mineral and Resource Act allows the government to interfere in these situations. On June 23rd, CTV News reports on this, and it is from this article that I deduce that the landowner was contacted by the MLA on June 19th. Let me summarize this. First, the provincial government and the Mining Association of Nova Scotia, MANS, accuses people of sharing misinformation on uranium exploration and mining and are using fear to manipulate the public. In Houston's press conference on June 12th, he makes the claim that uranium exploration and mining can be done safely and the health of Nova Scotians will always be a priority. Now, due to the province's reliance on Alberta for financial support, Houston states that if residents want more amenities, well, then the province needs to generate more revenue. Next, we have a group of activists who have looked at history and research, have consulted uranium mining experts, and they are told a very different story. It would appear that all research and data suggests that there are dangerous risks to the environment due to Nova Scotia's heavy rainfalls. Nova Scotia and the Maritimes as a whole are known for being the welfare provinces of the country for a reason. They do not generate enough revenue to be self-sufficient. So in this case, Houston is not wrong when he states that the province needs to find a way to generate more revenue. However, is uranium mining what's right for the province? Will it create more jobs? Will Nova Scotians' uranium be competitive in the market? Will the beauty of Nova Scotia, one that generates a thriving tourism industry, be protected? Let's dive in. So the first question, will uranium mining create more jobs for Nova Scotians? As of July 2025, the unemployment rate of the province has increased to 6.9%. MANS has repeatedly made the claim that uranium mining will create more jobs. Great, but is it? One of the mines that MANS admires and reposts photographs of is that of a Saskatchewan mine at Cigar Lake. Fun fact about this mine, 50% of the ores from Cigar Lake is extracted by automation controlled by artificial intelligence. And apparently, safe uranium mining is increasingly relying more and more on automation in order to protect workers. So if Nova Scotia was to enter the uranium mining industry, the province's revenue would increase in theory, but any workers will be eventually replaced by automations. So the unemployment problem would be, at best, only temporarily improved. Conclusion, safe uranium practices will not improve unemployment rates. Next question. Will Nova Scotia's uranium be competitive in the market? The Cigar Lake mine is currently the largest uranium mine in the world, and northern Saskatchewan has the third largest supply of uranium in the world. And its ores, they are exceptionally high grade. If we take a look at Nova Scotia's uranium supply, it is roughly 1/12 that of Saskatchewan, and it's low grade. So not only does Nova Scotia have a small supply of uranium, it is even close to the same quality as that of Saskatchewan's uranium. Furthermore, Nova Scotia doesn't have any nuclear facilities, so the province will need to sell. But who will want to buy a low-grade uranium product? I'll tell you right now, it won't be Germany or Scotland because they are moving away from uranium for nuclear power and are investing in cleaner energy. Is there even an urgent demand for uranium? No. According to the World Nuclear Association, there is no shortage of uranium. So the Premier of Nova Scotia wants to enter an industry that is replacing workers with AI and provide a lesser product in an oversaturated market. This doesn't sound like a winner, guys. Not even close. Now, what about the tourism industry? In 2024, the province's tourism revenue reached $3.5 billion. Nova Scotia is a beautiful province filled with natural beauty, and I am not surprised that over 2 million people traveled to the province that year. My question is this: will uranium mining generate more revenue than tourism for Nova Scotia? Now, I couldn't find any information on how much revenue uranium mining would create in Nova Scotia, but we do have access to the revenue it creates in Saskatchewan. How much revenue do you think it creates? 5 billion, 8 billion, 10 billion? Nope. Not even close. In 2023, the third largest supplier of exceptionally high-grade uranium generated $1.6 billion. Yeah, uranium mining in Saskatchewan generated less than half the revenue of tourism in Nova Scotia. So to be clear, the Premier of Nova Scotia wants to replace this with this. Why would people want to visit Nova Scotia if it looks like a wasteland? Because they're living on the edge and want to breathe in radioactive dust? No, of course not. So sorry, Tim Houston, I'm not buying this one. The Nova Scotian tourism industry will suffer if the province goes in the direction of uranium mining. What about the MLA who contacted the landowner and told him that whether he likes it or not, the province is going to explore his property for uranium? The legislation supports it, and Tim Houston has made the statement that if there's an industry-led uranium project, he will support the government dissolving landowners' property rights. However, as of today, the province has not received any bids. Why? Is it perhaps because the investment isn't worth it? Is it perhaps because the land wasn't accessible? Those questions will have to be left unanswered for now until there is more movement on the topic. For now, though, the uranium legislation has been appealed, landowners are being bullied by politicians, and the Premier is insinuating Nova Scotians are stupid and he knows best. Nothing suggests uranium mining is worth the risk it has on the environment and on the people. Would Nova Scotia benefit from more province-generated revenue? Of course it would. Will uranium mining of a lesser product in an oversaturated, low-revenue generating industry improve the province? No, absolutely not. If a citizen reporter like myself, who has been at this for less than 6 months, was able to destroy Tim Houston's claim that he wants to use uranium mining to generate more revenue for the province and that it can be done safely, that claim is false. What do I think is happening in Nova Scotia? Let's look at the facts. Policies are being in place to limit individuals' mobility and property rights. The cost of living is only increasing in the province through policies like the carbon tax and increase in water costs. property owners have no real property rights, and the province's leadership is showing tendencies towards tyranny rather than democracy. All these facts point towards population control, not a free and thriving province. But hey, what do I know? I haven't been bestowed the title of expert by our government yet. Not yet anyways. Okay, that's all for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode while the sun is blaring in my eyes. I have one or two more topics to cover before we get back to analyzing bills and the House of Commons resumes in mid-September. I just can't let this one go. That travel ban opened up a Pandora's box of curiosity for me, and I need to learn more about the Maritimes now. I started reading a book about the history of Canadian democracy, and it has shed a lot of light on how our government has become the way it is today. And on that note, stay informed, stay safe, and most importantly, stay free. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.